Good evening, members of the public. The time is now 6:30 and we're going to start this meeting. These are just some house rules. At the end of staff's presentation, there will be time for public to make comments or ask questions. I will provide further instructions to the public when we open the meeting for public comment at the end. At this time, please do not click on raise hand feature yet. Also, we will have a Q&A chat on. The answers to your questions will be answered at the end during public comment period. On my team, I do have Victor Hernandez, who will be helping with the Spanish translation. Victor, go ahead, please introduce yourself. Thank you.
Thank you, Suki. Good evening, everyone. My name is Victor Hernandez. I'm the Spanish interpreter for tonight's meeting with On Point Language Solutions. Muy buenas noches, me llamo Víctor Hernández y voy a ser el traductor del español que va a proporcionar la traducción para esta reunión esta noche. Y al final de esta presentación del personal habrá tiempo para que el público haga comentarios o preguntas. Vamos a proporcionar más instrucciones al público cuando abramos la reunión para que el público haga comentarios. En este momento, no haga clic en la función de raise hand o levantar la mano todavía. También tenemos puesto el chat de preguntas y respuestas, y las respuestas a sus preguntas serán contestadas al final durante el periodo de comentario público. Gracias. Thank you, Suki.
Thank you. Director Calderon, back to you.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. We're very excited to share with you the preferred plan for the Tunitas Creek Beach Improvement Project. Here tonight, assisting and leading the presentation, you've heard from Sukmani Purell and Victor Hernandez. Suk is the assistant clerk of the board of San Mateo County, and Victor is providing translation services. We also have Taylor Jang from the Peninsula Open Space Trust, or POST, and has been a critical partner during this project. Mario Nastari will be leading much of tonight's presentation. Mario is a ranger for San Mateo County and project manager. And Robert Stevens, who's the president for CSWST2 Consulting, has been the lead consultant on this project, and he and his team have done a phenomenal job taking the information that we've learned from the public throughout this process and putting it into what I believe is a phenomenal project and something that the public will absolutely love. And so with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor Jang. So those are our panelists. First, we're going to talk about the project background, which Taylor will be discussing, followed by a conversation on the existing site conditions, which will explain some of the opportunities and constraints that we had to work within. We'll also run through the public process and what we learned from members of the public and the community, and what type of experience people wanted to have before diving into the preferred plan and then having a Q&A session. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over to Taylor Jang at POST for the project background.
Thanks, Nicholas. So I'm really excited here to be partnering with County Parks and Coastal Conservancy and CSW for this project. And POST first got involved several years ago in 2017 when this site kind of blew up on social media. And we do have some background about that history on the Tunitas Creek website, so I encourage you to check that out. But the first kind of portion of POST involvement came with the property acquisition in November 2017. And from that point, we worked with several leaders of the community, different perspectives represented, including environmental interests, public access, community leaders, education, and more, to pull together a community advisory committee. And the point of that group was to really help characterize the opportunities and constraints in the early goings in of the property and on its way towards being converted to a new county park. And so that report is also on the Tunitas website. Encourage you to check that out if you're interested. One of the pieces that came up and was a key output that's still with us today is the project core values. So the 4 E's that we came up with: equity, experience, education, and environment, that still guide and ground the project today, and have really helped influence the preferred designs that you'll see here today. So again, really excited to be working with the county, Coastal Conservancy, CSW on this exciting project, and just really want to thank all the community members as well who helped make this project a reality, from the early goings of raising the issues to the county, to the continued involvement in the public engagement process and park designs. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mario to talk about the current opportunities and constraints.
Thanks, Taylor. So when we began managing the site, we saw some existing conditions that needed further analysis to best understand how we could develop the park safely and open it so folks could begin to use it. So what you're looking at is a map of the existing conditions. The directional arrows represent the active landslides on the site. The orange markings denote cliff erosion currently going on. The blue lines closest to the Pacific Ocean at the bottom of the screen represent high water scenarios. And the darker blue lines represent sea level rise scenarios. So as you can see, there's serious site conditions that really framed the parameters for what was possible for development for Tunitas Creek Beach. So after the existing conditions analysis, we reached out to the public with a general survey, and we really wanted to understand at a really high level who was familiar with the site, who had been to the site, how folks currently use the site, how folks wanted to continue to use the site, and how they got there. And what we heard was that the majority of folks arrived by car with 1 to 2 people. Over 90% just want to enjoy a tranquil beach environment. And overwhelmingly, we heard time and time again to keep the site natural. Don't overdevelop it, and keep Tunitas Creek's character intact. So those stuck with us, and we hope that you'll see that going in the preferred plan. So after that general survey, we began to develop design alternatives, and we presented 3 alternatives ranging from low to high level of development. We wanted to see how folks felt about the site with bare bones amenities, middle of the road development, and then we wanted to see how folks felt about the site with a full potential build out. Overwhelmingly, the respondents favored alternative number 2, which was that middle ground of level of development. And while that was the favored alternative, there was additional support for a couple of amenities. We heard quite a bit of support for increased access, so folks of all abilities could enjoy the site beyond the top of bluff area. It's very steep terrain, but folks still wanted to see more access. We presented a loop trail in the high development alternative that gained quite a bit of support, as well as habitat protection and restoration. So we took that advice going forward. In taking that advice, we felt that it was best to place the higher intensity development amenities at the top of the bluff in order to maintain that natural character at Tunitas Creek Beach. So we'll see quite a bit of development in the upper bluff, mostly your parking configuration, lower levels of development at the mid bluff, where you'll see some additional user amenities, and then very minimal development on the cliffs, on the bluffs towards the beach, and no development on the beach. So following that, the project team put out again to the public in October what we felt was a really good process. We had the baseline design for the park, which was basically that middle development alternative with those additional features, increased access in a loop trail, as well as additional stewardship opportunities. And then we took some of those amenities from the higher intensity development scenario and put those out to the public as well, and wanted to see how folks felt about things like additional overlooks to take in the beautiful views at Tunitas, maybe picnic amenities, rest stops along the loop trail, and amphitheater seating, a wildlife viewing boardwalk down towards the plover habitat. So that brought us to the preferred design plan. This is the full site, and we'll take a closer look at each area, top bluff, mid bluff, and beach areas as we go further in. But this is the full build out. So we'll see parking configuration, the loop trail going towards the south end of the property, your accessible pathway, some user amenities at the mid bluff, and then that wildlife viewing boardwalk down closer to the beach. So this is the top of bluff and parking configuration. It includes an overlook for folks. When we started doing the traffic studies and user analysis, we saw that folks tended to use the beach and tend to use the site in different ways. Some people decided to stop for 15 minutes to take in the view and continue their way up or down the coast on that scenic stretch of Highway 1. Whereas some people decided to make more of a day of it. So we wanted to allow people to enjoy the property at different levels. So we've got the scenic overlook at the top with our accessible parking. We've got the parking currently situated, accommodates approximately 65 vehicles with potential for overflow parking and further potential to expand in the future should the need arise. And that 65 vehicles was based on a traffic study that our consultant team did over it was the holiday weekend in October, beautiful weekend on the coast. And at the peak time, which was, I believe, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m., there were 63 vehicles parked on the bluff. So that's roughly the amount of parking that we chose to accommodate at this time. Going into the mid bluff, this is a beautiful rendering by our talented consultant team. So what you're looking at is an accessible path, a pedestrian path into the mid bluff area of the site. Meanders its way down on the side of the service road. We have some picnicking facilities and amphitheater style seating, as well as the public restrooms and park maintenance facilities. Continuing further down into the site, we have our existing access road, and we plan to make improvements to make it a little bit more accessible for folks to get down to the beach. We're also considering a boardwalk. I forgot to mention in the existing conditions that the site does have the western snowy plover, and you'll see the area marked off on the bottom of your screen. And so that's the plover habitat. We're proposing a boardwalk outside of the plover habitat where folks can learn about the species while not having a negative impact on them. And beyond that, we've got the loop trail. The loop trail from the parking lot to the beach is approximately 3/4 of a mile. And once you do complete the beach to the existing service road, you're looking at about a 1.5 mile trail. And again, that received quite a bit of positive support. I'm happy to say it's a pretty cool amenity. And I think folks are really going to enjoy taking a stroll along the bluffs, a quiet stroll through the southern end of the property. Robert, would you mind talking about next steps?
Yes, thank you, Mario. So we couldn't have got here without all the great work from our stakeholders and community groups. 2020 was a very busy year. It culminated at the end of the year with a report and a meeting that helped us get to where we are today. Moving forward, we have a couple of really important dates ahead of us. This presentation, the preferred park concept, will be presented to the Parks Commission on February 4th, 2021. And with a favorable review at that meeting, we will then go to the Board of Supervisors at the end of February on the 23rd to get their take on the project. From there, we'll go into an environmental review process that will contemplate the potential environmental impacts on the site and work to integrate mitigations into the final design. Hopefully the final design will be complete near the end of 2021. And as we work through the final design concepts, there'll be a series of additional engagement opportunities for stakeholders and community members. We're hoping this is post-COVID and we can get some meetings on site where we can really kind of feel the beach and feel the bluffs and get some feelings, your feelings on the project. And then again, hopefully everything goes smoothly and we can get the park constructed in 2022. Thank you, Mario, back to you.
Thanks, Robert. So at this time, I think we're ready to field some questions if there's any out there.
Thank you, Mario. I'm going to stop your screen sharing for now so then we can get some questions. So good evening, members of the public. First, we will take verbal comments followed by Q&A. Now is the time to raise your hand if you wish to comment or have a question. For those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. When you hear your name called, I will send you a request to unmute your microphone and you may begin speaking. Each person will receive 2 minutes to speak and may only speak once. Those who require Spanish translation will receive 3 minutes. My colleague, Victor Hernandez, will be assisting with Spanish translation. Victor, please translate what I just said in Spanish. Thank you.
Thank you, Suki. Buenas noches, miembros del público. En primer lugar, tomaremos comentarios verbales y enseguida por las preguntas y respuestas. Ahora es el momento de raise your hand o levantar la mano si quiere comentar o tener una pregunta. Para aquellas personas que se unen por teléfono, por favor presione la estrella 9 para levantar la mano. Cuando escuche su nombre llamado, le enviaré una solicitud para activar su micrófono y usted podría empezar a hablar. Cada persona recibirá 2 minutos para hablar y solamente hablarán una vez. Aquellos que requieren traducción al español recibirán 3 minutos y Víctor Hernández su humilde servidor, estará ayudando con la traducción al español. Thank you, Suki. Gracias.
Sure. Now is the time to please raise your hand if you have any questions or comments for members of the public. Okay, we do have one hand raised from Martin Phelps. Martin Phelps, I'm going to send you a request to speak and you will have 2 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name is Marty Phelps. I'm a coach for the Half Moon Bay High School Surf Club. And maybe you already answered, I kind of came into this meeting late. But my question is that until your development is done, will the beach be reopened? And the reason I ask is Tunitas Creek is for many years has just been an incredible place for me to take beginner surfers because I can tuck them up close to the bluff on the north end and it's really protected. And now during COVID-19, where we're really trying to distance the kids from other kids, having a big, wide open expanse beach like that really enables us to do that. But with all the, with it being closed, it forces us into more crowded areas. Also, my question is that I was of the belief that, beaches that had formerly public access were to remain open for public access. But in one of my conversations I had with the ranger, he said that it's been closed ever since you guys took it over. So those would be my questions. And again, I'm not trying to be adversary or anything. I just would like to know, really when can we access the beach, and then why was it really closed?
Yes. Hi, Martin. This is Nicholas Calderon, Director of the Parks Department. So technically the property was not open under prior ownership. And therefore the level of access has actually not changed. The prior owner, which was a private property owner, never actually made their property open to the public. Now in California, below the mean high tide line, access is protected. But we have not changed any of those access points or changed really access. But with that said, our goal with the overall project is to improve access, improve safety of access, and ensure that people are able to have a safe, enjoyable experience at the property by being able to access it in a way that's not trying to climb down the side of a bluff. And that's something that we've really worked hard to accomplish throughout this process.
Thank you, Nick. Our next speaker is Jim Sullivan. I want to allow you to talk, and you will have 2 minutes as well. Go ahead, Mr. Sullivan.
Hello? There we go. Can you hear me?
Yeah, there's an echo on your end.
Okay. I'm not
I'm
sure
actually
what.
gonna, if you could raise your hand again. I think there's audio technical difficulties.
Jim, how you doing?
Yeah,
I'm gonna try, Jim. I'm gonna try to answer your question without you asking. So hopefully I'm answering the right question. But I noticed you submitted a question in writing, and the question was about bicycle racks down at the beach, and that having safe bicycle parking down at the beach is preferred to leaving bicycles up by cars. That's something that we definitely want to make sure that parking is bike parking is provided in a safe way, and so that's something that we'll definitely look at during the design phase. One of the things that we would note is making sure that anyone with a bicycle is safely accessing that mid-bluff area and the beach area. But where those bike racks go is something that we will definitely evaluate during the design phase and make sure that we incorporate at all important parts of the property. And I think the point you make is well received.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Isabella Rolado. Isabella, I'm going to give you the permission to talk, and you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you for letting me ask a few questions. I have several questions. Will there be signage to the public about natural resources, either in the parking area or from the raised walkway? I'm also concerned about snowy plover impacts and the increased predation that might come along with increased garbage from the walkway or disturbance. And I'm wondering, how will snowy plovers be protected, especially during their nesting season, from impacts from the boardwalk? And are there any amenities planned for below mean high tide? Doesn't look like it, but that's a specific question. And will there be poison oak control along any trails down below? And my last question is, the parking area looks to be within the bluff erosion zone. And I'm a little concerned about that for climate impacts, sea level rise, and increased erosion. I'll put all these questions in the chat just so that you can refer to them.
Thank you, Mr. Director or another staff member, if you want to answer the question.
Sure. So I'll take a stab at the plover impacts and predation due to increased trash. So right now and in the past, the site has had no garbage facilities, which we're planning to change. We're really looking to instill a pack it in, pack it out culture with users of Tunitas Creek Beach. However, we understand that that's a pretty tall order to open the gates with that mentality. So we will be providing garbage facilities at the mid-bluff. I hope that helps address your question. Regarding amenities below mean high water, I do not believe we have any proposed in the preferred design plan. And Robert, if you wouldn't mind chiming in a little bit about the parking issue and cliff erosion.
Yeah, so I can talk about the parking, and the one other question was signs for, I believe, environmental awareness. And yes, the project has a whole complement of signs, and that'll be designed. And we're gonna love to work with community members and stakeholders to finalize those as we move forward with this. I guess also, Mario, we probably should talk a little bit about the snowy plover protection. There's a whole plan to install fencing during the nesting season at the base. There's also a plan to restore some of the habitat down there at the beach level to improve the dune habitat for the plovers. There are no improvements below mean tide. And then the poison oak control on the trail, that would be a maintenance activity, I presume, after the trails are constructed by the Parks Department. Is that correct?
That's correct, Robert.
Okay. And then finally, the bluff erosion with the parking lot. Mario's slide showed that Tunitas Creek Beach has several slope hazards along it. It's not unlike other sections of the San Mateo coastline. Some are more hazardous than others. The ones by the parking lots are fairly shallow and repairable. The key concept with the parking lot concept is not only managing stormwater runoff so we're not creating a hazard for the slope, but also making sure that whatever runoff is leaving our parking lot is properly treated and any pollutants or chemicals are removed from it before it's discharged to the Pacific Ocean.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker that has his hand raised is Paul Gator. Paul, I'm going to allow you to talk, and then you also have 2 minutes.
Thanks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation and the design proposal that I've been following. And it looks great overall. I wanted to follow up a little bit on Mr. Sullivan's points about bicycles. I'm a bicycle advocate. I'm on the Half Moon Bay City Council's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I'm speaking here in a personal capacity because obviously this project is outside the city limits. So I very much like what you're doing in terms of thinking about bikes and putting bike racks there. So I could see this being a destination ride for people coming out of Half Moon Bay. My question is, what have your thoughts been or will be about conflicts between bikes and cars coming into the parking area and leaving the parking area? I'm thinking particularly of bikes coming down Highway 1, heading north, which is a really steep drop. And so bikes are going pretty quickly down that. And I see conflicts there with cars coming out of the parking area, wanting to go north. And then also cars being aware of the fact that there are bicycles going south and going quite slowly because it's a hill. And so what are you thinking in terms of making sure that the drivers are aware that this is an area where there could be bikes moving past at slow speed and at high speed? Thanks.
So I think all of the bicycle lane striping that would be done along State Route 1 would be done consistent with the state of California Caltrans guidelines. So the project would implement the best practices related to how we ensure we stripe and sign to promote the safety of cyclists. So that could be green striping, green awareness arrows, additional signage, additional pavement markings. I think one point to make on this is that, eventually there's a proposed trail that's going to be constructed along the San Mateo coastline that would hopefully provide in a lot of locations an off-highway route for cyclists traveling north and south. And if you look at the plans, the project actually does implement this trail along its frontage.
Thank you, Robert. I don't see any other hands raised, so maybe we can go to the Q&A portion. If any raised hands do come up, then we'll get to those. First one is from Bill Bates, I'm sorry. How can we visit Tunitas now? Can I get a pass, a group tour? I might have to leave this webcast, so please send an answer to my email. But I think, Carla, you can see that email and the phone number, but if somebody wants to answer this live for others.
Yeah, I'll take that one, Suki. So as part of the arrangement that the county and the Peninsula Open Space Trust came to when we were working through this process and this project, we agreed that we wanted to get the property open by the end of this year in some capacity. And so we're going to be working on coming up with a what would be a limited access program through the property down the existing access path, and whether that's going to be a docent-led hike program, a department-led hike program, or a department post program. We're still working out the details, but the intention is to eventually host those types of led hikes, and a great example would be what was done at Devil's Slide for a while before it was open to the general public. And so we have great experience doing this, but we definitely want to make sure that we are able to get the property open to the public in a safe way in the meantime. So the timelines on those are undetermined, but once we have those details worked out, the San Mateo County Parks Department and Post will be blasting that information out and posting it to our websites and our social media accounts, and making sure the word's out that that individuals and groups would be able to access that for that program. So once again, the timing's to be determined, but we will be opening it up at some point for that type of program.
Thank you. Our next question is from Carrie Burke. Can a biofuel bus space be provided for a shuttle?
The parking facility that's proposed actually does have locations for shuttles of various types. So I think this is an interesting idea to consider, and thank you for the comment.
Thank you. Next one is from Paul Gator. He also spoke. How will the current, quote, informal, unquote, trail access from Tunitas Creek Road be blocked in the future?
So what we'll have to work at, that's a bit more complicated. That path does not just run on county property, that's also runs on state property, it runs on private property. And so what we're gonna have to work through is, and I think the bigger question is, how do we restore that area? So how do we take this creek corridor that's been damaged over the years for various reasons, and how do we restore it to a more native and healthy condition? And as part of that effort, we will have to figure out what type of access or use would be allowed in that area. But once again, the two constraints that we need to really work within: one, it's not all county property. There are multiple property owners. And two, how do we make sure that that corridor is as ecologically beneficial as possible? And how are we going to make sure that we restore that area? So those are the two challenges we're working within. And the county and Post have really intelligent, top-notch technical staff working on that. We've also partnered with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District on that. So what I would consider to be really really some of the best minds on this topic are working on that, and we'll continue to work on that until we can come up with a solution.
Thank you. Next, I think is just a comment from Jim Sullivan. Bicycle racks down at the beach, question mark. Lots of people will ride bikes from the coast side and peninsula. Having safe bicycle parking down by beach is preferred to leaving bicycles up by cars.
Yeah, and Suki, that was kind of what we talked about already, which is we will have to look during the design phase specifically where will those bike racks go. And you know, as someone who loves to ride my bike along Highway 1, someone had stated earlier that this is going to be a destination for people riding south from Half Moon Bay, and I could not agree more. And so how do we accommodate that is something that we will definitely be looking at.
Thank you. At this time, I don't have any other hands raised. Maybe we can give 10, 15 more seconds for folks to raise their hand if they have any questions or comments. Also, there are no other Q&As at this time, but we do have one hand raised from Tim. Tim, I'm gonna allow you to talk so you can ask your question or a comment, and you'll have 2 minutes. Go ahead. Tim, go ahead. I just give you the permission to talk. Okay.
Okay. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I've been using Tunitas Creek since the 60s. And the creek has been just deteriorated down to where it's like, it's really sad to see how much erosion. And I want to know if you're going to bring a bunch of people down to the beach and turn it into like another, you know, kind of an open space deal, what are you going to do about the creek as far as you can go up till you get to the, you know, underneath the freeway over to the private property that's on the east side of Highway 1?
Yeah, Tim, thank you for that question. And I wish I had the memories you probably do of how that property's changed over time. With regards to that creek, though, I don't have that answer for you right now because we're still working on what that restoration plan looks like. But we acknowledge what you just stated, and we agree with you that over the years, especially in recent years, that creek has been severely damaged by human activity. And how do we restore it? And how do we, and not just restore it, but make sure that once it's restored, we're able to preserve it in that native and healthy condition. That's going to be the management task that we have ahead of us. And that's really why county and Post are partnering with the San Mateo Resource Conservation District to make sure that we're setting up this long-term effort that will be successful at restoring it to a healthy condition.
Thank you, Mr. Director. We have one more Q&A from Isabella Roletto. Which company or agency performed performed the snowy plover data collection?
Which data are you referring to? I'm sorry.
It just asked a question, which company or agency performed the snowy plover data collection? So maybe,
Money.
So yes, there's a couple different entities out there. There's a volunteer organization that does data collection. Our natural resource management team, which is a in-house division of natural resource specialists and biologists. They're also doing data collection and monitoring. And then we also had a biological resource. A biological resource firm come out and do some surveying as well. So there's been a couple different surveys. And the San Mateo County Parks Department will be responsible for ongoing monitoring, and we will continue to work with some of those nonprofits that are already doing collection region-wide, both north and south of Tunitas. There's a couple different entities doing that thing.
yeah, thank you, Mr. Director. She did message saying that the data that you presented at the SNPL protection area.
Oh, and so I think the question is, how did we come up with the boundaries of the snowy plover protection area on the beach? And I'll turn that one over to Robert to answer, as his firm had developed that one.
Yes, so there was a previous biologist that completed a technical study for suitable habitat for snowy plovers. And they have done an initial concept that illustrates that the location we're presenting in the plan is a suitable habitat for plovers. Now, as we move through the environmental document, there'll be another rigorous study related to this and related to snowy plover habitat, which potentially could be modified because, as we know, the beach is a constantly evolving location. So please be on the lookout. The environmental document that will support these plans will have a lot of great data regarding this.
Thank you, Robert. And Jim Sullivan is just, I think, making another comment that this is a broad brush stuff. Sybil Esterday was an artist that resided in the Tunitas Glen area above Tunitas Creek Beach at the terminus of the Ocean Shore Railroad line. I encourage staff to study showcasing some of the very important history of this area at the following link. So Mr. Director, at this time, I think we've had both the Q&A and verbal comments. So it's up to your discretion if you want to give a few more seconds, or I think we're done at this time.
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and address Mr. Sullivan's comment at the end there, and just point out that this property has a very rich history, going back to serving as a village site for the Ohlone, later a Ocean Shore Railroad site, and many uses in between. All of that is going to be highlighted in our interpretive signage. But even more exciting is going to be the interpretive opportunities that the department has to engage with the public. And so we have a phenomenal interpretive team that leads programs like our Take a Hike program, our Nature Hike programs. And they're going to be able to take all the history of the property and create a site-specific program for this. And so we really look forward to educating the public on all of the history of this site, including some of the issues that Mr. Sullivan raised. So I think this property is going to has a rich history, and because it has a rich history, I think it's going to have an amazing programming opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Maybe back to Mario or Mr. Calderon. At this time, I don't have any hands raised, and there's no Q&A questions.
I think in that case, I'm going to turn it over to Mario to say thank you and good night to everyone. But first, take my own moment to thank everyone for participating and being here tonight. The department's really excited about the opportunity to provide its first coastal beach recreation site and park, and one that has such a rich history, but also one that we get to create from the ground up. And you all get to be a part of that, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to help us with that. And we look forward to seeing you all out at the new park when it's open. And thank you again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Just want to echo that. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you for your questions. And also wanted to throw a special thanks to the panelists today. We've got a very talented and cohesive project team, and we're all really, really looking forward to moving this project forward. Thank you.
Thank you all. And I believe if there's any other questions or concerns, is there an email address that the public can email? Mario or Carla or Mr. Caldro?
Yeah, really quickly, Suki, a question came in at the end that asked if surfing is still going to be allowed. We've not had any conversations about prohibiting surfing at that site. You know, we obviously want to make sure that the public's aware of safety concerns, especially in light of everything that's been going on. So we will have sufficient and adequate signage that notifies the public, but we haven't been having conversations about prohibiting surfing. And with regards to any further comments or questions, Mario, what account do we have on all the documentation?
Give me 1 minute. I'm looking right now. It's our general Parks email account. Let me get the specifics. Hang on.
So the if you have further information and you'd like to reach out, you can contact the department at Parks and Recreation at smcgov.org. Once again, that's Parks and Recreation at smcgov.org. And we look forward to reading your comments, and we are always happy to you know, have a email conversation or a phone conversation to answer any questions or have any conversations you'd like. At the end of the day, this is your park, your property, and we want to make sure that you get to have the experience you want.
Thank you, Mr. Director. Thank you all. Thank you, Mario. The time is now 7:17 and the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks, Suki.